You can start, Prabhu.
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। शृण्वत स्वकथा कृष्णा पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तनः हृदयन्तस्तस्य भद्राणि विधुनोति सुरहि सततं नाष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवते उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 1, text 63, 64, 65, and 66. अग्निष्वात्ता बहिर्षदः सौम्याः पितराज्यपः साग्नयोनग्नयस्तेषां पत्नीदाक्षायणी स्वधा. Translation and translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Agnishwatas, the Baharshidas, the Somyas, and the Ajapyas are the Pitas. They are either Sangika or Nirangika. The wife of all these Pitas is Swadha, who is the daughter of King Daksha. तेभ्यो दधार कन्ये द्वयी वयूनां धारिणीं स्वधा उभे ते ब्रह्मवादिन्यो ज्ञान विज्ञान पारगे. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Swadha, who was offered to the Pitas, begot two daughters named Vayuna and Dharini, both of whom were impersonalists and were expert in transcendental and Vedic knowledge. Text 65. भवस्य पत्नी तु सती भवं देव मनोव्रता आत्मनः सदृशं पुत्रं न लेभे गुणशीलतः. Translation. The 16th daughter, whose name was Sati, was the wife of Lord Shiva. She could not produce a child, although she always faithfully engaged in the service of her husband. Text 66. पितरय प्रतिरूपे स्वे भवाया नागसेरुषा अप्रौढेवात्मनात्मानम् अज जहाद्योग संयुता. Translation purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The reason is that the Sati's father, Daksha, used to rebuke Lord Shiva in spite of Shiva's faultlessness. Consequently, before attaining a mature age, Sati gave up her body by dint of a yogic mystic power. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Shiva, being the head of all mystic yogis, never even constructed a home for his residence. Sati was the daughter of a great king, Daksha, because his youngest daughter, Sati, selected as her husband, Lord Shiva, King Daksh was not very much satisfied with her. Therefore, whenever she met her father, he unnecessarily criticized her husband, although Lord Shiva was faultless. And because of this, before attaining a mature age, such Sati gave up the body given by her father, Daksha, and therefore she could not produce a child. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the fourth canto, first chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Genealogical Table of the Daughters of Manu. नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनि नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Thank you, assembled Vaishnavas, for giving me this opportunity to speak for my own purification. I'll summarize today's verses from the verses purports by Srila Prabhupada and some lectures given by His Holiness Vapas Maharaj. Please forgive me if I add my own meaning or interpretation to this. So, in this chapter, Maitreya Rishi is describing the progeny of Manu, and we're going through the descendants, and finally, we are coming to the main characters, which is Daksha and his daughter Sati, which will be the theme of the next few chapters. So, last few verses of this chapter describes Daksh and his daughter Sati, and that sets up the stage for the next few chapters about Lord Shiva. Then Daksha was envious towards Lord Shiva. So the sneak peek given here in last two verses is the Sati. Daksha was having hatred towards Lord Shiva, and because of that, Mother Sati, she gives up the body, and she never had a before she begets the child. So then the elaborates next few chapter elaborates this story in a detailed manner, how it unfolds. So the real reason for the enmity between Lord Shiva and Daksha is Daksha was the envious of Lord Shiva because of Shiva's high position as an incarnation of a quality of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And because Shiva was directly in contact with the Super Soul and was therefore honored and given a better sitting place than him. So there were many other reasons also for Daksha's hatred. Daksha, being materially puffed up, he could not tolerate the high position of Lord Shiva. So his anger at Lord Shiva's not standing up when that uh, whole uh, incident happened was, when Lord Shiva did not stand up for Daksha in one of the ceremonies, then that kind of came out as his final straw in his manifestation of his envy. So Lord Shiva is always in meditation and always pursues the super soul. And the position of those intelligence is always absorbed in meditation upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very great and cannot be imitated by anyone, especially the ordinary person. So when Daksha came to that yajna ceremony, Lord Shiva was in meditation and even might not even have seen Daksha that he entered. But Daksha took the opportunity to curse him. He cursed Lord Shiva because Daksha had maintained an envious attitude towards Lord Shiva for a long time. So those who are actually self-realized, they see every individual body as a temple of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his Paramatma feature, is residing in everyone's body. So when one offers respect to the body, it is not the material body, but to the presence of the Supreme Lord. And thus one who is always in meditation upon the Supreme Lord is always offering him obeisances. But since Daksh was not very elevated, he thought that everybody has to offer the obeisances to this his material body. And because Lord Shiva, he was a liberated soul. He's a special G. He's a special. So he never offers the respects, never in the concept of this material body of life. So Daksha then become more envious because like in our material world also we have seen people get uh, angered if you don't respect them just because of their position or power or some other reasons. But they don't see that we are not this body. Everybody has a super soul and soul in their body, and we should respect that rather than some material achievements. So such persons being even able to rise to the standard of self-realized soul like Lord Shiva, they're always envious. So Asuras and demons, those are the categories, are always envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then they always are ready to have an enmity towards the Supreme Lord. So even in this Kali Yuga age also, we find that so many scholars are commenting on Bhagavad Gita who are envious of Krishna. So when Krishna says that man mana bhav man bhakto, always think of me, become my devotee and surrender to me, the so-called scholars comment that it is not Krishna that we have to surrender to, and that's envy, right? So the asuras or atheists, the demons, without reason or cause, they're envious of the supreme personality of Godhead and their devotees. And similarly, instead of offering respect to self-realized persons, foolish men who cannot approach the highest standard of self-realization are always envious. And although there is like no reason, but they're puffed up because of the material position. So here, envy is the another thing. So in this feat of envy, Daksha curses Lord Shiva and the demigods that are eligible to share in oblation of fire. But Lord Shiva, he said that who is the lowest of all demigods, should not have the share. So because of this share, Shiva was deprived of his share in the oblation of Vedic sacrifices. And it was due to the curse of Daksha. But here, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur had a great comment that Lord Shiva was saved from the calamity of taking part with other demigods who were all materialistic, because Lord Shiva is the topmost Vaishnava. He is a devotee. Doesn't care about the materialistic oblations and offerings and things like that. So he is the greatest devotee of Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's why it's not fit for him to sit or eat or sit with materialistic persons like demigods. So the curse actually of Daksha was indirectly blessing for Lord Shiva, who would not eat or sit with other demigods because they were so materialistic. So there is and he also gave a very practical example here. Srila Prabhupada gave a practical example that our said by Gorkishar Das Babaji Maharaj, who used to sit on the side of a latrine to chant Hare Krishna. Because many materialistic persons were used to come and bother him and disturb him daily, routine of chanting. So to avoid their company, he used to sit by the side of latrine where materialistic person would not even go because of the filth and the smell. However, Gorkishdas Babaji Maharaj was so great that he was accepted as a spiritual master of such a great personality as our Vishwanath, Shri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj. So the conclusion is that Lord Shiva behaved in this own way to avoid the materialistic person. Like, and curse was a blessings for him. And this was a by planning of the Supreme Lord. Also, we will see in later in the Srimad Bhagavatam that Daksha, due to his envy and offense against Lord Shiva, falls down. So we have to be very careful about the offense against the devotee. In Ramayana, there's a story of a Dvivid Vanar that who was a minister of Sugriv. He was so powerful and but very arrogant. So he advised Sugriv when Lord Ram and Lakshman they first met with Sugriv on a uh, on that mountain. He advised Sugriv that not to pay attention to Lakshman. Just take care of Lord Ram. Why even bother entertaining Lakshman? He is just a younger brother. But he forgot that that Lakshman is represents the spiritual master. Is like Lord Lakshman is incarnation of Lord Balram, who is the the spiritual master eternally. So because of this offense, when Sugriv challenged Bali first time, he got beaten up. People think like, hey, Lord Ram is a supreme Lord, right? He's situated in everyone's heart, so he doesn't need a flower garland to differentiate between Sugriv and Bali. He can close his eyes and blindly throw the arrow, and he can easily kill Bali. But because of Sugriv's offense, he let him beaten by Bali. So when Sugriv came back, Lord Ram asked Lakshman to put a garland in Sugriv's neck. So to put a garland, Sugriv had to bow down to Lakshman, his head, right? So and then at that time, Sugriv realized his offense that, oh my God, I should not even mentally, I should not have thought about it that Lord Lakshmana is in exalted position. He's like a spiritual master, and how did I made offense against him? So he was feeling little penance and repentance. So with that, and then Lakshmana put garland in his head. That uh, wiped out his offense because he took a shelter of the person who he offended. And after that, Lord Ram, again took them to the fight and then, killed Bali. And then, but Dvivid offense against Lakshman, who represents spiritual master, was much more bigger. So he fall down from his position. And finally, in a Dwapar Yuga, Lord Balram killed him. And then he got the liberation. So, and because of the offense against Lakshmana, Dvivid, he fall down in such a manner that he came in association of the demons like Narakasur, Banasur, and other demons, and he became like a uh, associate of Sugriv to the associate of demon, almost become a demon, and then he started doing all those nonsense activities. So here's a message for us is envy and offense against the devotees, even the mental offense. We have to be very careful, especially like senior devotees, our spiritual masters. That mental offense also can take us to make us fall down and fall down in such a manner that we don't even realize that we fell down. And so we have to be very careful. So here, same thing happened to Daksha. He made an offense out of envy against Lord Shiva, and then he fell down such a manner that his head was cut off, and then finally he got the head of the goat. And there are some beautiful messages also coming up in the next few chapters, where people think that intelligence comes in your from your brain, right? But no, intelligence comes from the heart. And that concept that materialistic scientists don't digest it, because uh, intelligence actually comes from the heart. That's what our scripture says. Now think the examples of Daksha, when his head was cut off and he was put the head of a goat. Still he had intelligence. He remembered all his past birth, and then he all the knowledge that he acquired. He was still retaining that. So if the head is where we store all the information, then how did he remember everything? Same applies to Lord Ganesha, right? His head was cut off too, but and he was put elephant's head. So if you think that intelligence is stored in our head, then how is it possible that Ganesha was such an intelligent person, and he was still remember all his knowledge? So that's another great message that coming up in few new chapters. So there are new realizations that I was never aware of about, unless I heard from senior devotees that this realization that, yeah, I never pay attention that, yeah, intelligence comes from the heart. And why and heart? Because the more we purify ourselves, the more we become intelligent, because super soul lives in our heart, right? So the more we cleanse our heart through chanting and devotional process, we are able to get more intelligent, and that's the real intelligence basically. So there are quite a few lessons coming from the stories of Lord Shiva and in upcoming chapters, so looking forward to hear that. But so many lessons we need to learn from our life as well. So with that, I would like to conclude the summary. Please feel free to add any comments, and forgive me if I add any made any